Hi, I'm Lane. Welcome to 5 Bucket Studio. Today, I'm going to talk about the process of simple slab building. Let's get started. Here is the material that I'm going to use to demonstrating a slab building demo. The material that I'll be using is slip, a scoring tools, a metal rib with serrated edges, a finishing tools will be a rubber mitt that is on a softer setting, a sponge, a knife to cut my clay, and a brushes for applying slip as I go. Not to mention a little piece of ruler to measuring the size of the pieces, and most importantly, a slab. Currently, my slab is a little bit more stiffened up, not as soft as this, still giving a little bit more flexibility, but it still has a lot to give and stability and structure for me to standing my slab without it slumping over. So that's a perfect slab to start with. Now I have my piece of slab ready. I'm going to trim it and cut it into the size that I need. So I'm taking my quilting ruler to establish a more straight edges so I can have a better measurement. So what I do here is that I quickly cut through both corners of my plate right here by using my knife. And then I can measure from the corner the side of the slab that I need. Let's do 10 by 3. Or maybe go a little bit higher with 3.5 by 3. That should give me a good size for good espresso cups. Now that I have stood up straight of my slab, you can see that it still has a lot of flexibility, but it also gave me a lot of strength to the pieces. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap around my slab so they are likely connected and overlapping one to another like this. When they're overlapped like this, holding these two slabs together by pinching it down, then I'm going to go ahead and use my knife doing a diagonal cut across together with both pieces. So with the small marking over here, you can see this is where the line with the hooks cut straight directly to the bottom. By doing that, I establish a very nice clean connections between those two. I'm going to do slip and scoring, and then to connect this two pieces of joint together. First of all, I'm using my tool to create a lot of serrated edges by scoring the edge. And then same things I'm going to do on the other side. And I'm going to add some slip between those edges. And I'm going to squeeze those two joints together by creating pressure on both ends. The tricks that I do to joining them is holding my two hands on the side and press it against each other on the seam. Give a little bit more pressure. So you should see a little overlapping all the way around. In order to do a better establishment to connecting those two, I'm going to using my serrated edges tools to blending those lines in by scraping across in between those two planes. By doing so, in a way, I'm blending one of the slab clay all the way to the other side. That will give a little bit more physical joining connections between those two. And I'll establish the same method in the interiors of the slab. And don't worry too much if yours feels like you're ruining your pieces. You're not. We're just going to establish some textures on the side to basically blending those two slabs together. And later on, I'm going to use one of my rubber rib to kind of clean up those edges. You can see that by a few scrapes, I'm able to smooth out all of this marking that was done through the serrated edges metal rib. And I establish the same things from the interior of the cylindrical forms as well. So the seam lines from the interior are mostly invisible, but from the exterior, I can still see a little line underneath. So as I keep working on this form, I'll continue to work on hiding the seam. Now I'm going to establish and think about the shapes and the form of these cups. Do I want it to be a perfectly circle, or do I want it to be a little bit more oval shapes? In this case, I think I'm going to take on the approach of making these pieces in more a oval shape size. I have a little extra piece of clay right here, and I'm going to use my needle tool to trace around the bottom of this piece. Also going to tracing the inside of the cups. That gave me a good indication where I can actually need some slip and score. And lastly, what I'm going to do a little marking from the inside connecting to the top. Not sure if it's clear, but right over here, where you guys can able to see the marking that I did in the interior. That allows me to find out whenever I cut out these pieces of slab and where I should connecting with my other pieces on top. Flip this piece around, and I'm going to add slip and score all the way around. I'm going to apply lots of slip onto both edges. And now matching on that line that I established early on and make sure it was on the right spot. I'm going to flip this cups over so I have a better, clear understanding and seeing the interiors to match up the line that I have. Then the next step what I do is, again, doing a micro wiggle. So wiggle back and forward to really pushing those two pieces of clay together so they have a better joining. Establish a stronger connections. Noticing the edges of my cup is getting a little dry, so therefore I'm adding a sponge, just a little touch of water to make sure a crack doesn't appear. Okay, from there on, now I'm going to work on the edges. So I do noticing that my pieces has a lot of extra clay on the edges, which is totally okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm using the simmer tool to etch out on the side. This tool is excellent. Not only it can help blending the seam a little better, to establish a stronger connection between clay to clay, but also it helps taking some extra clay out. For example, I have an extra clay on these edges. So all I do is make sure I scrape it until I level with this plane. By continue to establish that, I'm able to have a better shapes and refine the form, and also make sure the bottom of these pieces are well attached to my cylindrical slab. Now I'll come back using a rib to help clean up the edges. Now you can see the seam line overall onto this cup shapes a lot more cleaner. And from the inside, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait the slip to dry a little bit, and I'm gonna go ahead and use the brush. Sometimes I use the back of my brushes like this to run against the line. The slip should act as like a small tiny pores and really sealed up the line of this cylindrical slab with the bottom slab. Check out my other videos on how to clean up all the slip line from the connections from piece of clay to another piece of clay. Thank you for watching for my videos. Hope to see you soon again.